How did your gut feeling save you? It was supposed to be a routine flight. I'd flown countless times, but as I sat in the terminal waiting to board, I couldn't shake a strange feeling in my gut. Something felt off. The flight looked fine. Clear skies, a reliable airline, and the usual pre-boarding buzz of travelers. But the closer it got to boarding, the stronger the unease grew. My heart raced and my hands felt clammy. I couldn't explain it, but something inside me screamed, "Don't get on that plane." I tried to reason with myself. It's just nerves. Maybe I'm overtired. But as the final boarding call echoed through the terminal, I froze. Without thinking, I stepped away from the gate and told the attendant I wasn't feeling well. They called my name over the intercom twice, but I stayed put. An hour later, the news broke. The plane I was supposed to be on had crashed shortly after takeoff. I couldn't believe it. I sat there shaking, replaying the moment I decided not to board. Everyone said it was a freak accident, something no one could have predicted. But I knew my gut had warned me. To this day, I don't ignore that inner voice. Sometimes it knows what we can't.
Our boss refused to give us breaks, so we got the ultimate revenge. Our boss, Mr. Grayson, had one rule: no breaks. If you've got time to lean, you've got time to work, he'd snap if anyone dared pause for a moment. The stress was suffocating, and morale was at rock bottom. One day, after yet another rant about wasting company time, my coworker Sarah smirked and whispered, "If we can't take breaks, neither can he." That's when our plan was born. We started small. Every time Mr. Grayson sat down to eat, one of us would rush in with an urgent question or request. When he stepped away for a moment, someone else would time it perfectly to call his desk the second he returned. To add a little spice, we signed him up for a free motivational texts service that sent him cringeworthy quotes every hour. Hustle harder. Winners don't rest. But the crowning jewel? A surprise birthday party, even though it wasn't his birthday. We convinced HR to help plan it, complete with balloons, cake, decorations, and a drawn-out schedule of speeches, games, and even karaoke. It ate up half the workday, and Mr. Grayson couldn't escape without looking rude. By the end, he was frazzled and exhausted. As the party wound down, someone joked, "Wow, breaks really do help the day feel better." He didn't argue. The next week, a quiet email went out. We were now allowed 2 15-minute breaks a day. Sometimes the best way to win is with a little humor and a lot of teamwork.
Growing up, it was obvious who the favorite was. My younger sister, Lily, could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. She got the praise, the attention, and every bit of their support. Me? I was expected to figure things out on my own. By the time I hit my 20s, I'd made up my mind. If I wanted to be successful, I had to rely on myself. So I worked. Hard. Late nights, weekends, whatever it took. Eventually, I built my own company from the ground up, and by 35, I was a millionaire. My parents started treating me differently once the money rolled in. Suddenly, they were proud of me, showing off my achievements like trophies they'd had a hand in polishing. I let it slide. After all, they were still my family. Then came the day they sat me down and said, "You know, your sister's been struggling. Maybe you could give her a role in your company. A small piece, just to help her out." I was floored. Lily hadn't worked a day in her life. She lived off allowances and occasional side gigs, and now they wanted me to hand over a piece of what I'd spent years building? "I love Lily," I told them, "but this company wasn't handed to me. I worked for it. If she wants to be a part of it, she'll have to earn it." They didn't take it well. My dad called me selfish, and my mom started guilt-tripping me about family sticking together. But I held firm. Lily and I talked later. She admitted she wasn't even sure she wanted to work for me. It was all my parents' idea. She's figuring out her own path now, and I'm still running my company the way I built it, with no shortcuts. Sometimes success doesn't just mean achieving your goals. It means knowing when to say no, even to the people you love. My roommate wasn't who I thought they were. When I first moved in with Jake, everything seemed normal. He was quiet, paid his share of the rent, and kept to himself. Honestly, the ideal roommate. But then small, weird things started happening. I'd come home to find my kitchen cabinets rearranged, like someone had alphabetized my spices. Once I found my shoes perfectly lined up by the door, even though I'd left them in a messy pile. I figured Jake was just a neat freak, so I let it slide. One night I came home late and noticed light coming from under Jake's door. No big deal, until I heard him talking. Except it didn't sound like a phone call. It was like multiple voices. Curious, I leaned closer. I'll never forget what I heard. "Don't worry, they don't suspect anything," Jake said in a low voice. Then another voice, completely different, replied, "Good. We just need a few more days." My heart sank. Was he talking to himself? Or worse, was someone in there with him? I knocked on his door and the voices immediately stopped. After a long pause, Jake opened the door, looking totally normal. His room, spotless. Not a single sign of anyone else being there. That night I couldn't sleep. I decided to check the apartment cameras I'd set up when we moved in, mostly for security. What I saw chilled me. Around 2 a.m., Jake walked into the living room. But it wasn't just him. It was like he changed. His posture, his expression, even the way he walked. It was as if he became a completely different person. He paced the room, muttering in different voices, and then just sat down and stared at the wall for hours. The next morning, I packed my things and left. Jake tried to ask why, but I couldn't even look at him. Whatever was going on, I didn't want to stick around to find out. Would you have stayed to figure out the truth, or was I right to get out while I could? When I was 10, my dad picked me up from school in a shiny used sports car. It wasn't new, but compared to our old rattling sedan, it felt like a spaceship. "Where did this come from?" I asked, wide-eyed. "It's ours," he said with a sheepish grin. "But don't tell your mom yet." Dad explained he'd been secretly saving to buy something reliable. "Your mom worries enough. I just need time to show her this was the right decision." Over the next few weeks, the car was our little secret. We'd take joyrides when Mom wasn't around, and I swore not to say a word. But secrets never last. Mom caught on when the old sedan's mileage didn't add up. She was furious at first, one of the biggest fights I'd ever seen, but eventually she admitted the car was a smart buy. That sports car became our family car, carrying us through years of memories. Dad wasn't just buying a car, he was buying us peace of mind. Looking back, I smile at how a little secret turned into something unforgettable.
So I just won $1 million. Yeah, crazy, right? Life-changing. But what I didn't realize was it's also relationship-changing. Let me tell you what happened. My girlfriend, let's call her Lisa, has always seemed chill about money. Or so I thought. The second I told her about the million, she switched up fast. At first, it was little things. "Oh, babe, we should go out to that fancy restaurant." "Cool, no big deal." Then it became, "Let's take a trip to Paris next weekend." "Paris? Next weekend?" And then she started dropping hints like, "You know, I've always wanted a Chanel bag." Or, "What if we got matching Rolexes?" It's like, I just got this money, and she's already spending it in her head. Here's the kicker. I asked her, "Would you still be with me if I never won this money?" And she laughed, like seriously laughed, and said, "Of course. But isn't it great you did?" That's when I knew. She's not dating me. She's dating the $1 million. So now I'm sitting here with $1 million question. Do I keep the money and lose the girl, or keep the girl and go broke? What would you do? Let me know in the comments. And remember, money doesn't change who you are. It just shows you who people really are.
My mom wants me to name the baby after her, but I'm not sure I can. Becoming a dad wasn't exactly part of my 5-year plan, but life has a funny way of flipping everything upside down. My girlfriend and I found out we were expecting a baby a few months ago, and now we're in full-on get our lives together mode. I'm excited, nervous, but excited. My mom, on the other hand, is ecstatic. This is her first grandchild, and she's already picking out baby clothes, toys, and decorations for a nursery we don't even have yet. At first, her excitement was sweet. Then she hit me with the request. "You know," she said one evening over dinner, "you could name the baby after me. It'd be such an honor." Now, don't get me wrong, I love my mom. She's been a huge support in my life, but naming my kid after her? That's a lot. Her name is Ethel. Yup, Ethel. It's a classic name, sure. But it's not exactly what my girlfriend and I had in mind for our baby. I tried to laugh it off, saying, "We'll think about it." But she wasn't joking. She's brought it up at least 3 more times since then, always with that hopeful look in her eyes. It's getting awkward, especially because my girlfriend has already fallen in love with a completely different name, one that feels perfect for our little one. Now I'm stuck. Do I honor my mom's wish and risk upsetting my girlfriend? Or do I stick to our plan and let my mom down? I know this is my kid, and the name is ultimately our decision, but I can't help feeling guilty. How do you tell someone you love that you're not going to do the one thing they've asked for? Would you name the baby after her or go with your gut? Because I'm running out of time to figure this out. So here's the deal. I live with this guy. Let's call him Jake. We've been roommates for about a year and everything was fine until I started noticing my stuff disappearing. At first, it was small things. A few cans of soda, some snacks. No big deal, right? But then it escalated. My wireless earbuds? Gone. My favorite hoodie? Disappeared. One day I came home early and caught Jake red-handed, wearing my hoodie and using my earbuds while eating my leftover pizza. He looked at me, shrugged, and said, "Oh, I thought you wouldn't mind." Excuse me. That's when I decided it was payback time. I ordered a bunch of fake AirPods online. They look legit, but they're total garbage. I left them lying around in my room, knowing Jake wouldn't be able to resist. Sure enough, the next day, my AirPods were gone. Here's the fun part. I rigged them to blast an ear-piercing alarm sound as soon as they connected to Bluetooth. Jake synced them up, and boom! I heard him scream from the other room. He came storming in, yelling, and I just smiled and said, "Oh, I thought you wouldn't mind." He didn't have much to say after that. Safe to say, Jake hasn't touched my stuff since. What would you have done in my situation? Let me know in the comments.